This is Kuntal Chakraborty, Assistant Professor of Electrical Engineering Department, Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management, GIS Group. I'm just going to give a lecture on Introduction to Microprocessor. Before I explain it elaborately, I'm just going to give a definition of microprocessor. Microprocessor is a multi-purpose device. By using microprocessor, we can perform different types of tasks. Even nowadays, we can perform multiple tasks at a time by using microprocessor or processor. And this one is a programmable device. Whatever we want to perform by using microprocessor, so we have to give some instructions to the microprocessor. We have to give some instructions to the microprocessor. So this group of instructions is called program. So this program that can be written into a memory by which we can perform different types of tasks. This one is a clock driven device. Means if you want to perform some task by using microprocessor, it will take a specific time. Means it has a specific operating frequency. So this one is a clock driven device, and it has some registers. This one is a register based device, and microprocessor has some registers. It may be some special purpose, it may be some general purpose registers, and this one is an electronic device, and that read binary instructions from the storage device. So basically microprocessor that can only understand the binary thing, means 0 and 1, means it can accept the binary information from a storage device which is called a memory. Means some instructions or program that is stored into the memory in a binary form, and that can be accepted by the microprocessor to perform different types of tasks. And it accepts this kind of binary instructions as an input, and it will execute or it will process these instructions or data, and finally we will get some output. So at a glance, a microprocessor is a multi-purpose programmable clock driven register based electronic device that read binary instructions from the storage device called memory and accepts binary data as an input and processes data according to those instructions and provides results as an output. So this is the definition, and now I'm just going to explain the microprocessor system. This is a microprocessor system where we have a microprocessor that is connected with the input-output devices and memory through the system bus. So in our microprocessor, we have ALU, register array, and control and timing unit. We already know the functions of ALU. ALU is a unit by which we can perform arithmetic and logical functions. Suppose we want to perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, that can be done through ALU, as well as the logical operations like AND, OR, XOR, NOR, NOT, any type of logical functions that can be performed by ALU. And we have register array. I already discussed. In microprocessor system, we have some registers array. It may be some special purpose registers, it may be some general purpose registers. If you want to perform some arithmetic and logical functions, then we may require some special purpose registers. If you want to store some data, then we need a general purpose register. So we can store the data into the general purpose registers. So this is the register array. And finally we have a control unit, control and timing unit. Suppose I want to read some data from a memory and I want to write some data into a memory, then we need some control signals. So for this read-write purpose, we need two signals, that is read signal and write signal. These are the control signals that will control the read and write operations. And this is also the timing unit means it will basically control the timing of the operation. So this is the timing and control unit which is very important part of the microprocessor. And this overall microprocessor that is connected with the input output devices through the system bus. Now we can take an example. Suppose we want to perform a program, say the addition program that is written into a memory, and we have to give some input, say 2 8-bit data that we have to give as input. So that's why we have to connect a keyboard with a microprocessor. So this is the input device that we have to connect to perform this kind of task. So at the same time, the program that is addition program that is written into the memory, so after execution the result that can be seen by using a display device. So that's why we have to connect a display with a microprocessor so that we can see the result of the output as a output. So that's why this kind of input and output devices that is connected with a microprocessor, so by using the system bus. And another important part we have, that is the memory unit, which is very important. So memory unit is basically used to store some program or data, where we can store instructions or a particular data into it. So the program, memory, it may be ROM, it may be rewritable memory, and these memory input output devices and this microprocessor is all of the hardware things. Now we will try to explain the software one, that is the programming part. So if you want to write some instructions or program into the microprocessor, then we have to use a language. In microprocessor system, generally we are using the assembly level language, that is the low level language. We already know 2 types of language we have. One is a higher level language and next one is a lower level language. High level language like C, C++, Java, and low level language like assembly language. So microprocessor basically cannot understand anything except the binary one, means it can understand only 0 and 1. So if we write the instructions by using the binary bit, then this kind of language is called the machine level language, and that can understand by the microprocessor. So for a user, it is very difficult to remember all these instructions in a binary form. That's why what type instructions that will help us to develop the program very easily, or that kind of instructions in a word form that will give us to write, that will be very easy if we write the word, if we write it in a word form. So this kind of language is called the assembly level language. So the lower level processors like 8085, 8086, 4004, 8008, all these microprocessor, they use the assembly level language. So in assembly level language, only a microprocessor can perform their task for this particular processor, not for the other processors. So this is the software part by which we can perform different types of tasks or programming. Now next is a system bus, which is very important. This is basically a communicating path by which the input output device and memories are connected. So this communication path is basically this is very important. Suppose I want to connect a keyboard with the microprocessor, then we need a port address by which we can connect these input output devices, and finally data from the keyboard that will come into the processor by using a data bus. So data bus and address bus, which is very much important, that is basically a part of system bus. If you want to connect some input output devices, as well as if you want to write something into a particular memory, we need the address, and after addressing we can only write the data into a particular memory. At the same time, if you want to read some data, we first need to address the memory, then we can read the data from a particular memory. So this is the microprocessor system. Now another thing which is very much important, that is a question that is arising, how the microprocessor is performing any kind of task. So I am just going to summarize the operation. Basically, a program that is written into a memory, or some instructions, that is a program, a group of instructions called the program, that is written into a memory, and if microprocessor want to execute these instructions, then microprocessor first try to address this memory. After addressing, the data that can be read from the memory, and it will send to the microprocessor, and the data that is stored into the memory, which is not in a binary form, that is in a hexadecimal form, and that will convert the data into the binary form. There is a section which is called instruction decoder. Instruction decoder that will decode this hexadecimal data into the binary form, and microprocessor can understand what it have to perform. So after decoding, microprocessor will perform the operation that is written into the memory. So this is the overall operation of microprocessor by which any kind of task that can be performed by the microprocessor. Now this system is basically is applicable for any kind of operations. So I'm just I already give an example for a keyboard is connected with the processor as an input, and a display that is connected with a processor as an output. So basically it may be a printer that can be connected as an output. It may be any input devices that can be connected with a microprocessor as an input device. So the basic thing is that if you want to perform any kind of task, then we have to write some program into a particular memory. Then after executing the instructions, microprocessor perform the task accordingly, and finally we will get the results. This is the overall operation of microprocessor. Now I'm just going to discuss the history of microprocessor. Before I start the history of microprocessor, first I will try to explain the history of semiconductor technology. That is actually started end of 1950s, where the entire circuit consisted of some transistors, diode, resistors that can be fabricated in a single chip. And in 1960s, logic gates known as 7400 series were commonly available in ICs as ICs, and the technology used, that is a small scale integration, means the number of transistors in a fabricated in a single chip increases at that time. And after that, the advancement came, and more than 100 gates that can be fabricated in a single chip. That obviously that is using a MSI technology, that is a medium scale integration. The example like decade counter, where the number of transistor again increases, and within a few years 1,000 or more than 1,000 gates are fabricated on a single chip, and that is called the LSI technology, that is the large scale integration technology, where again the number of transistor increases enormously. Now We are in the era of VLSI, SLSI and ULSI technology. That is a very large scale integration technology, super large scale integration technology and ultra large scale integration technology. Nowadays we are using the ULSI or SLSI technology, where the millions numbers of transistors are fabricated in a single chip. So this is the development. We started with a few number of transistors fabricated in single chip. It's just end of 1950s, and nowadays we have fabricated million number of transistors in a single chip by using VLSI, SLSI and ULSI technology. Now there is a law by which the number of transistors increases. So one of the co-founder of Intel, David Moore, developed a law where number of transistors integrated in a circuit would double every 18 years. So it is seen, it started from end of 1950s, and now we are in the days of million number of transistors that is fabricated in a single chip. Now we will try to understand the history of microprocessor. Intel co-founder Ted Hove, in 1969, the journey began by the Intel's co-founder Ted Hove in 1969, and when at that time Ted Hove actually tried to make a bipolar RAM. In the same year, a company called Busicom, a Japanese company, they gave a task and to perform a programmable calculator by which addition, multiplication, division, all these kind of arithmetic functions that can be performed by using a single device. So after developing the programmable calculator by Intel in 1971, they first developed 4-bit 4004 microprocessor. So that is a journey began with a 4-bit processor, and again the development came 4-bit microprocessor 4008, 8080, 8085 developed, and then the 16-bit microprocessor 8086, 80186, 80286 developed, with increasing the clock speed as well as the number of transistor increases in this particular processors. After that, 32-bit processor developed, and 80386, 80486 32-bit processor developed and came into the market. And after that, the Pentium 4, Pentium, dual core, core 2 duo, i3, i5, i7 came into the market. Now we are in the era of i9, and this is the development. Its journey started in 1969. First processor developed in 1971, that is a 4-bit processor, and its clock frequency is very slow, and after that increasing the clock frequency. Now we are in the era of the clock frequency was 4 kilohertz range, and now we are in the era of gigahertz range. And at the same time, it started with a few transistors fabricated in a single chip. The processor has had a number of transistors which is very much small, a few thousand number of transistors fabricated in a single chip at the time of at the beginning. And now we are in the era of millions number of transistors fabricated in a single chip. So first is the clock frequency, that is increased, number of transistors in a fabricated chip, that is increased, and third one, the area of the chip, that is decreased, and fourth one, the channel length, which is very important. At the time, at the beginning, they used the millimeter fabrication technology, that is the channel length of the transistor was millimeter range, after that micrometer range. Now we are in the era of nanometer technology. And another thing, the clock speed increases, means the device actually get faster, and after the development of the microprocessor, the clock speed as well as the memory, that is addressable memory, that is also increased. Now this is a memory history perspective. The 4004 processor, that is 4004 processor, developed first in 1971, where the number of transistors was 2300 and its frequency was the clock speed frequency, that is a 108 kilohertz only, and its address was 10 bit and the data was 4 bit, and the addressable memory is only 640 bytes. Now in 1976, 8085 microprocessor came with a number of transistors 6500, and the clock frequency increased enormously, that is a megahertz range, that is 5 megahertz, and at that time 16 bit and 8 bit, 16 bit address bus and 8 bit data bus came, and 1 megabyte of memory that can be addressed by 8085 microprocessor. Then 8086 came in 1978, 29,000 number of transistors fabricated in a single chip, and the frequency is same, and the address bus increased, means the address bus increased at the same time the data bus is increased, that is a 16 bit. Next, the concept of virtual memory came in the market for the case of 80186 microprocessor. The virtual memory is a concept where the multiple process that can be accessed by a main memory, where the main memory is small and virtual memory is very larger, means a lot of process that can be accessed by use of small main memory, and this concept came in 80186 processor, and the virtual memory concept came, and in nowadays the virtual memory actually increased a lot, and we will see the Pentium 2 processor that is came in 1997, where the 8.8 million transistors fabricated in a single chip and 233 megahertz frequency it has, and 36 bit processor that can address up to 36 bit, and 64 bit data bus it has, and it can address up to 64 GB of addressable memory. In case of Pentium 4, in 2002 Pentium 4 came, where 42 millions of transistors fabricated in a single chip, and its frequency is increased enormously, there is a 1.4 gigahertz, very faster device, and it has a 36 bit of data address bus and 64 bit of data bus, and it can address up to 64 GB of addressable memory. And next, which is a very important part, that is the cache memory came into the market. That is a very faster memory, and this is one is the fastest memory that is used in the processor, and in between the processor and the main memory, the virtual memory, cache memory introduced, and by using cache memory the processes can be performed very fast, and the cache memory has a 3 level 1, level 2 and level 3. In level 1 nowadays we have 3 levels, and level 1 has this is the fastest memory, and and L2, which is slower than the level 1, and but it is a bigger in size, and L3, that is the largest cache memory, and it has a slowest this is one is the slowest cache memory that we are using nowadays. So in 80486, 8 kilobyte of cache memory used. In Pentium, 16 kilobyte of cache memory used, and in Pentium 4, 256 kilobyte of level 1 and 2 megabyte of level 2 cache memory used. Another important thing came in 8086 microprocessor, that is the pipelining concept. By using cache memory, by using main memory, we can make the device faster, processor faster. But another thing that can make the device faster, which is pipelining concept that is came in 8086 microprocessor. When the microprocessor is executing a task, at the same time microprocessor will interface address some next data, and that will fetch the data, and that will store the data into a queue, and so that the device can be faster. So the concept came in 8086, that is a single pipelining technique, and after that the dual pipelining technique and multiple pipelining technique came into the market, so that device can be faster. And nowadays we are using the multiple pipelining technique, so by using this the device can be faster. So this is again the development of microprocessor technology in terms of channel length, in terms of clock speed, in terms of cache memory. In case of i3 in 2010 that is developed, we are using 3 types of channel length technology, that is 14 nanometer by 22 nanometer and 32 nanometer technology, and its frequency, clock frequency is increased enormously, that is 1.06 gigahertz to 4.2 gigahertz, and it has a 64 kilobyte of per core cache memory level 1, and 256 kilobyte of cache memory level 2, and it has a 4 megabyte to 8 megabyte of cache memory level 3. So all are increased in case of i3, that is in terms of nanometer, that is decrease in channel length, and increase in clock speeds, and increase in cache memory in terms of device faster. And now we are in the days of i9, where that is developed in 2018, where 14 nanometer technology used, and its clock frequency is very high, that is 3 to 5 gigahertz, and its cache memory level 1 is very huge, that is 512 kilobyte, and its level 2 cache memory is 2 megabyte, and level 3 cache memory is 16 megabyte. So nowadays the channel length is decreases, means the channel length in case of MOSFET technology, the distance between the source and drain, that is called the channel length. So nowadays the channel length decreases, and due to that some error is occurred. We are getting some difficulties due to decreasing in channel length. So lot of problem is arising. So nowadays that's why different technology, different research is going on to develop another type of device by which the device can be faster, because nowadays the channel length decreases means a lot of error is developed into the system. So that's why nowadays we are trying to develop, the researchers are trying to develop another technique to develop a technology by which the device can be faster. Now a reputed company like Google, they are trying to develop a system by which the processor can be faster. They are trying to develop a computer by using a quantum technology. So we can use a quantum technology, like different type of research is going on to make the device into another form, so that the problem arises from channel length that can be neglected, and another technology that can be used to develop a system or processor, and that will be very much faster than the available devices, and we can perform different types of tasks by using processor, and very easily and very faster. And thank you.